This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This Thursday conversation this morning, and Advocate Peter Simba Wasaga is in the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning. Wakili, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Very, very fine. It's very cold here in Nairobi.
It is.
But we are managing.
We love that weather.
Yeah.
She loves it.
We
most.
means me.
Interesting.
But Karibu will probably warm things up a little bit because by the time this conversation is over, we'll probably be talking about we would have talked about a number of things in terms of what we're going to be looking into. Before we get into that, let's warm you up a little bit. We are going to an island nation.
Yeah.
In your mind, not at you. We're getting to the plane. In your mind.
Yeah.
Dennis, tell you where that country is. We'd love to hear your interpretation of the proverb from this country.
So this country is Mauritius, a country of a population of around 1.3 million people. So there is a bird there called the dodo bird that got extinct in the 1600s. Based off information we gather, was highly poached, if that's a word, by the Europeans. The reason why it does not exist today. So you want anything about that bird, it's through the books or photos that do exist. But the proverb that we get this morning, when a hyena plans to eat its own children, it accuses them of smelling like a goat. How would you interpret it?
Interesting. You see, when one wants to commit any vice, when one wants to perhaps interfere with anyone, he must first seek a legal standing or a justification for doing that. So you have to get an accusation first before you can justify your action. So that is what an hyena does, so that he can easily stand and defend his action. These were not my children.
You know, a hyena understands the criminal justice system
It was
proper.
smelling like a goat.
Yeah, it smelled like a goat.
Exactly.
Why not eat it? I was hungry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because it might actually feed into some of the conversations that we have this morning. And when there's politically instigated violence like what we saw over the weekend, and it's not just this weekend, interestingly enough, it just happens to be that in the period of time, this weekend was the worst that we've seen over the short period, Not the worst ever seen in Kenya, but the worst seen over the short period in the last 6 months in this country. Homa Bay was not fun. It was not good. Now, coming into a couple of days after that, we are seeing and hearing some of the horrors that actually happened over those 2 days between Saturday night into the end of Sunday. And it's not a good picture that's being painted. But for our Justice Thursday conversation, as we look into this at the moment, and we're saying that somebody must pay, and we're highly condemning this across board. Everybody is highly condemning it, and they're saying that the perpetrators must be brought to book, but not just them, but the people who ordered these things to happen must be brought to book. How do you start to approach this huge elephant from legal points of view?
Thank you so much. It's a very interesting but very difficult balance.
Yeah.
One, there is this common saying that the law is very clear. But looking at the law, sometimes it's not very clear because it's subject to interpretation and it must meet the threshold of the Constitution. Mostly in the hierarchy of laws, the Constitution is actually the supreme law, and the statutes will follow thereafter, then the interpretation by the judiciary, which is best known as common law.
Yeah.
And with regards to the statutes, of course, with regards to the Constitution, there is that freedom of expression that is guaranteed in the Constitution. Of course, the Constitution is the supreme law, and it binds every state organ, everyone, including the politicians, the president, the state organs, including those who demonstrate and those who do not demonstrate. They are all governed by the same Constitution. But then this Constitution goes to Article 33 and provides for the freedom of expression. Everyone expresses themselves in a way that they know. But in every right, except those which are under Article 25, there are those which are non-derogable under Article 25. But the one under Article 33 is a right with limitations. If you read that act very clearly, it limits the extent of your freedom of expression. One, you cannot use your freedom to propagate for war, or to give propaganda on war, or to incite to violence, or hate speech, or even advocacy for hatred. Of course, it's a very broad act. But then let's get back now to context.
Yeah.
The same constitution under Article 50 provides for rights of an accused person, by extension right of a suspect, because as we speak, those who have been mentioned are suspects. They have actually not even been accused. And this right is it stems from one of the very fundamental aspects of it is the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. Then we get back now to the Penal Code, Section 96. It also mirrors Article 33, and it speaks about political incitement and political violence. So therefore there is a criminal aspect of political violence. And this political violence, we get back again to the Evidence Act. So that's why it's not that as clear as many people think. In the Evidence Act, the onus is on the prosecution to prove beyond reasonable doubt that a criminal offense, actually a crime, was committed.
But okay, if you look at now the calls for international bodies to come in and prosecute the matter at home, paints a picture of perhaps individuals who do not believe and trust that the agencies that ought to be gathering this evidence to be investigating might not do a proper job. What does that say to Kenya's criminal justice system and the rule of law and justice being dispensed?
I was actually coming to that because the threshold that applies to criminal is actually universal. Because even if you invite the International Criminal Court to come here, it must start from the investigation stage. And the investigation means gathering that evidence. And how do you gather evidence? One, you look at the crime itself. Of course, there are elements of a crime. The act, the mental, the mens rea, the malice aforethought of committing that crime. So then we go back to what was actually said. Let's let the context Kaluma. There was political mobilization. There was a political mobilization on the Linda Mwananchi going to Homa Bay. Actually, I come from Homa Bay County, the dusty Homa Bay County. Specifically Yemen, Sindo, where we actually welcome the Linda Mwananchi very well. And actually what followed subsequently is what actually really is the point of discussion here. So you have to look at what did Kaluma say? And who are the audience? What is the context of that speech? Then now if you take that, you can now proceed to prosecute Kaluma. So yes, there could be political bad manners, there could be political incitement, as actually what happens in Kenya. But now the threshold, for example, connecting the speech by Peter Kaluma on 15th of August and the actual destruction of tourist hotel in Homa Bay, the following day. What is the connection? So we would want to first to question, what did Kaluma say? And who are the audience? You see? And then, are this same audience the ones who actually destroyed tourist hotel and they killed people? How do you balance that? So that is a very technical part. That is why most of these political bad manners or political inciters, they go away with it.
Okay, so let me give you the example that we use, but maybe one that we don't use enough.
Yes.
And not to hash a bad state, because it was a terrible time. And the things that happened in that period, people are still living with it until today. And that was the genocide that happened in Rwanda. One of those instances, one of the individuals that was then indicted plus interdicted, all of these things happening, and then charged and sentenced by the ICC, was a radio journalist. He spoke, these are the airwaves, I can't control who is listening to me. I am going to say something, but, and I don't want to use the phrase because I think even in Rwanda today, the phrase is still banned. You can't use it in public. But what he said was akin to killing people. how in that case would because the legal matter for us to try and understand, how would you then be able to protect? Because how would you then link what he said on radio over those couple of days to what happened in the streets? Because the radio waves fall on all ears. How would you say that this person acted because of what they heard on radio?
Actually, that every case is interpreted differently.
Okay.
And of course, there is the action itself.
Yep.
But the most difficult part is proving all the elements of a case. Yes, it's very clear that someone could come to a media station like Spice FM that has an international viewership beyond the national viewership, and there are things that are pronounced and they are acted upon. Now that is where now we go back to the ingredients of this crime under Section 96 of the Penal Code. How then do you prove the onus between the words spoken and the actions?
Sorry, where does the delivery of common sense come in all of this legal thing? And I'm not being facetious. I'm actually asking that can't you see a clear connection between something someone said and then a requisite and an action? Wouldn't you then be able to see, okay, obviously that there's a line between this and this, the very words one is purported to have said, and something that happened, nobody else said it that we can hear, that's in the public arena?
So it will depend on the witnesses that will be called.
Okay.
And because you see, a case is also one, like I said, on evidence and the witnesses. If it can be proved that the persons who acted based on that incitement or communication, then it can be construed as an incitement to violence.
How would you prove that they didn't?
That is the difficult part about criminal law. That criminal law, the threshold of proving a criminal case is very much huge as compared to maybe other cases. But I believe there are so many other laws, and of course there is the integrity, the leadership and integrity. The Constitution is very broad, and we're able to see how best, of course, even the Integration Act, the NCIC, they're able to summon and be able to connect, to give a connection between what you spoke and the action. But like I've stated, Kaluma himself came out. Like in this case, we are narrowing down to Peter Kaluma. He came out and stated that he was misquoted, that the context upon which he spoke was with regards to protecting his electorates from outsiders' interference. Of course, this is something that can be quantified. And we must also differentiate between political statements and political incitements. For example, if you say that, do not allow these people to get into our political territory. What is the meaning of do not allow these people to get into our political territory? And if they come to our political territory, kill them. So someone could interpret that. Of course, that is the legalese. The reality on the ground is that there is political bad manners, and they are getting away with this political bad manners because one of the hardship in collecting and collating this evidence to prosecute a case. Number two, it's because of political interference, because a crime is a crime based on what political divide you are in, because who are actually the actors? Who are actually the actors? You know, criminal offenses are against the state. Criminal offenses are, unlike the civil cases where it's private, an individual versus an individual, but in criminal cases, it's a crime against the state. So it is a republic versus Peter Wasaga or Peter Kaluma in this context, and that is without prejudice. So what happens is that these politicians, and depending on their political divides, the state is represented by the ODPP. So if the ODPP is not independent, then you will understand the frustration the opposition have to an extent that they are now calling upon the ICC to come. Number two, before this case is taken to the ODPP to prosecute, you also need an investigator. So an investigator will be there to collect the evidence, and you call them IO, the investigating officer. And after collecting this evidence, for example, where is that audio, the unedited audio, the raw audio, the translation of that audio? You may not get it because which phone actually shared it. Yeah. Will that person be ready and willing to come and testify, to hand his phone over for forensic analysis and to have it used as exhibit? They will be running away. So in that case, the IO has already compromised this case and has already failed.
Am I hearing you say that with this video that is circulating, where clearly we're seeing this is Opondo Kaluma
Yes.
giving these statements, that the state cannot pick that wherever it is based off logic that this is a statement that should not be there and prosecute the individual, because then when is common sense common?
It's not about logic, it's about the law, unfortunately. It's unfortunate because we want to know who took this video. And this is not to support whatever happens. I'm just telling you the hurdles that are there in prosecuting this. Who took this video? And who are the audience? And can you connect that this audience actually came from that rally or whatever that speech was made and destroyed or blocked the Linda Mwananchi from accessing?
The IOs that you talk about, then,
Yes.
these are the individuals that go about collecting this evidence.
Exactly.
And then they would be working perhaps then with, because when we talk about IOs, that would be the DCI, who would be working perhaps with the intelligence officers.
Exactly.
To know who was in this gathering,
Yes.
right? Who would
Yes.
then feed into testimonies that they would give.
Yes.
So what if these testimonies are given by the audience that was there and directly say that we acted after the statement that was given by person X, Y, Z? Would that then suffice to be enough evidence to charge an individual?
Exactly. That's what we are heading to.
Okay.
That will be enough evidence. So there is the audio. It can be extracted, the unedited, the raw audio. It can be analyzed. The audience who are there can actually be questioned. They accept to be witnesses, and they also, they also go and testify that actually from that gathering, so and so, I have a video. Given that speech or arising from that speech, they went and blocked the Linda Mwananchi brigade from accessing Homa Bay town and actually maimed, killed, and caused havoc in town. Or alternatively, and also on top, they went and destroyed Tourist Hotel and many other businesses. That is now cogent. That is now the law that can be used to prosecute. Otherwise, the social media prosecutions, they end at the social media. We may report it, we may repeat it, we may say it again and again, but without that goodwill, without the extensive investigation, and without extensive and unbiased prosecution, then most of these politicians will go scot-free. Take an example. And you see, one thing about politics, and I'm afraid to mention this, is that in Kenya and in by extent in Africa, publicity, good or bad, as a way, especially the bad, as a way of increasing a politician's bonga points, if I may say that. So that if you analyze even from long ago, there are politicians who actually were known because of the political incitements. It's in the public domain. Take, for example, there was a time that Moses Kuria was arrested. There was a time that Babu Owino was arrested. There was a time that Mudhama was arrested. And when these individuals are arrested, then it gets back to us. Politics about it's a bit fanatic, and that is why it's very difficult to use the law to address it completely.
So it sounds to me that, first of all, we are guided by the rule of law, supposedly.
Yes.
But then when it comes to making sure that everybody behaves, and that in a case whereby it would assume that somebody has contravened the law, and that you want to then be able to prosecute that, it seems as though the law is an impediment to justice.
The law protects the accused. They say in law, we say it's better to have a guilty person set free than an innocent person rot in jail. So that is why it's very the threshold on criminal cases is very high.
But what it does, you see, because you even have people who are lawyers,
Yes.
then are able to open their mouths and say certain things. And what it does is that because you understand that the ambiguous application of the law will protect you. So then what it allows you to do is splur anything and spew anything that you want, because you know that there's a place in this gray area that you can actually hide. Is that not what we're saying?
Yeah, that's why it's important always. Of course, that's on a light note. Most of these politicians, they have their legal, because of course, when such things happen, there is the aspect of the law and actually the action. So there is the case and there is the defense. But again, before I lost my, there's a flow of thoughts that I had. One, it's very clear that the Kenyans themselves have actually condoned this. They have actually embraced these political bad manners, because the same people who are in the public domain to incite, to cause havoc, are the same people who are seen as heroes back in their constituencies. And I'm telling you this, it may surprise you that Peter Kaluma may actually win the Homa Bay town election by a very big margin. It's like religion. Everyone sees that you are headed to a ditch, and the doctrine that is being fed on you is wrong, but you'd rather die with the man of God, because the man of God is the supreme law, is the constitution from your understanding. So as much as the incitement, there are people who justify it because of their political standing. They will not really see the bad in what actually happened in Homa Bay. And there are those who are actually in the opposition who are actually seeing it as very bad. So it depends on the denomination or the political divide that you are in. That makes it very difficult to prosecute. Take it for example. In 2013, we elected individuals who actually accused of crimes against humanity, and the cases were ongoing. But the same people who actually are now calling upon ICC to actually have the crimes in Kenya investigated are the same people who went across the world trying to bring those cases back to Kenya, although it failed. And of course, what happened after everything was said and done, there was a political greeting or a political handshake, and the case actually died. So most of these people who are very agitated with the political incitements and actually are calling on ICC, you will be surprised when they cross over maybe to the government tomorrow and they change tune. Let us also look at the context. And I wanted to look at it without really leaning towards the opposition or leaning towards the government. The Linda Mwananchi Brigade are in Sindo. The political rally is very successful. Then the member of parliament for Suba South, Karoli Omondi, he stands on the podium and says, we are going to Asego to deal with them. Meaning that they were also ready to deal with. So we have to speak things as they are. Then on the way, of course, the goons are coming. Two wrongs do not make a right. Babu Owino says they are 30, they are only 50. Let us pick stones. Let us beat them. It was live on TV. Let us pick stones. Let us go. So whatever is good for of course, that is not the correct political statement to make. But when we look at the law, we have to look at it not from our political divides. Peter Kaluma's statements, if looked at contextually and of course in the public domain, they were wrong. Babu Owino's statements inciting his members, I don't know whether to call them members or political supporters, it is wrong. Karoli Omondi on his part, by actually telling them that we are going to Asego to deal with them, who are they dealing with? So So it is a political bad manners that we should be able to point out and call it out regardless of your political stand.
From where you sit, Wakili, is there selective application of justice? Why do I say that? Because if you listen to what happened to Kagusha as well, he made a statement publicly. To date, what you're telling us, investigation and a retraction of that video evidence in raw format is something we do not know whether it happened or not. One just sits and thinks
who found the tape, who
he was
found
just
the
picked
original?
because it's something that was seen on social media, and 80 police officers were sent to him. Let's look at what Opondo Kaluma said, right? And based off whether it's Opondo Kaluma, whether it's Babu Wino or Karoli Omondi, right? All these aspects of criminality that ought to be done, the investigations have not happened. So the crime is against the state. So is the state applying selective administration of justice depending on who is on the other side?
Of course, it's very obvious, and I think I have mentioned it more than once. But let me put it very clearly: that it's selective application of the law, given your political divide, and this applies across the opposition and the state. But let us look at the state because they have the responsibility of prosecuting criminals or persons accused of committing crimes. You cannot be the one who applies, your scales are uneven. In this case, Kagusha the uttered statements that were seen as incitement to violence.
Yes.
Right? Then the following day, he was arrested. I think he was arrested while he was just concluding an interview at Citizen. Then there was also Peter Kaluma. Peter Kaluma makes these statements. There is no iota of steps that has been made by the government even to investigate, even to arrest him. I think it would have been proper so that even as investigation, I see mostly the IOs when they go to court, they ask for time to investigate. And what happens during that time? They can ask the court to have you in for maybe days as they do their investigations. But why is this not happening? It's because of their political alliances with the government. And that tells you that our independent bodies are not as independent as we perceive them or as the Constitution dictates. That is the context of Constitution without constitutionalism. We have so many laws. Our problem is just letting the law work. We always have a way of interpreting the law to suit our own interests. So that is why those who are in government, the action may not be as fast as those who are in the opposition. And one thing, you see, those who are in government today, they were in opposition yesterday. And there is a more likelihood that they may be in opposition tomorrow, or those in opposition may be in government tomorrow. That is how government works. That is how politics works. So what we should guard with all our hearts as stakeholders, and stakeholders, we have the lawyers, the public, the media, is to call it out the way as it is, so that even if they are not prosecuted, it is there in the public domain. But of course, this also must be done within context, because if you extend the boundaries, then you can also be held culpable for your actions. Okay. So yes, there is selective. There is selective application of the law, and this must stop. And that is not this is not only on the criminal aspect alone. It's also in government, the judiciary, the legislature and the executive. They are meant to have a separation of power. But if you see politicians come out and they tell you that we were bribed to do this, and these are the same people we expect to make laws, and these laws, we expect them to be interpreted. No wonder there are so many laws that are being declared unconstitutional. So if independent bodies can be independent, if the DCI can be independent, if the ODP can be independent, so that regardless of your political stand and political persuasion, you are meant to face the law as it is. Why haven't they started investigating Gachagua, for example? They invited him over the remarks he had made some times back.
Yeah.
Why haven't they? Because there are people who are are seen to be untouchable, so that the small criminals are meant to pay and are meant to suffer, which actually is the law. But these big criminals have a way of circumventing the law. I think that is what we'll need to look at, the independence of the body. Even if you invite the ICC, you make so many laws, without that goodwill, there is nowhere we are going to.
Okay, let's take a break now. We're talking about the legal aspect of all of this. And there have been issues around self-defense and maybe statements that came up as an answer to what may have been meted on one. Let's come back from the break and look at that and see what the law has to say about that. We'll continue this conversation. We'll come back from this break real quick, and it continues then.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
5 bob? These days it doesn't get you much, but now just 5 shillings unlocks any premium story on the Standard. These are stories that go beyond the ordinary, exclusive, high value, and only on the Standard Insider. Choose your story anytime, anywhere for just 5 bob. Bobeana 5 bob. Big stories, small price. Visit www.standardmedia.co.ke and subscribe today.
The key nutrients I can be able to say, if a woman, a lady who is expecting to breastfeed or carrying a pregnancy should be able to focus on, of course, we'll start with energy-giving foods.
Yes.
Now take this conversation if it is the lady that I taught, and now she went home and told her Seto, I want to have nuts every day, at least a small amount of it. I want you to give me a fruit every day, at least some fish, even if it's 2 times in a week. Then Seto might start thinking, now this one, because of pregnancy, now has decided to finish me. Yes, this is a power drink for a mother.
They say politics is local, but news is both local and international. This is International Roundups, where we bring you everything international, the geopolitics and decisions made on that level, and what all these decisions mean to you. Only right here on KTN.
This home is vibes on vibes. Really? People. You go home and then you get so excited. You don't even know where to start. That's how I feel. I love your foyer.
This foyer, it's basically the face of the house, so to say.
And the lamps on your staircase. Hello, ma'am.
These are lanterns.
Yes.
I always used to eye them.
Okay.
I wasn't able to afford them, but the moment they send those emails, we are on sale.
Exquisite, magnificent, full of creativity. Every single detail of our home is nothing short of spectacular.
I wanted just 4 rooms up here and the DSQ downstairs. And there's a study area.
Yes.
I have my son's room, then there's my daughter's room. The girls always have to be very close to the parents.
Okay.
So there's a 1 big bed. Again, that bed can be separated. It's a 3x6, 3x6. So those days they don't feel like they want to share a bed. Kila mtu anapata ya kwake.
Wakikosana,
which is most of the times.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The degree of your reaction to protect yourself. For example, robbers attack you, and then you use a gun to kill them, that robber. the context really matters. Politically, in the political context, this does not apply.
Okay.
Because we have the police. And it is something that, of course, it's expected that if you have a political rally, for instance, you are expected to inform the police so that you can be given security. So why is the security? This security is two-way. There are those who may not want to participate in your political assembly. So the police protects them from interference. Number two, the police also protects you as the picketers or protesters, so that you are able to show the police that this is what we are doing, this is what time it will take, and we expect you to go with us.
But do they though?
Yeah.
Do they though, Wakili? Because if we're going to go by things we heard and what we saw, Babu Owino,
Yes.
who is the Member of Parliament for Mbakasi East, very clearly we heard him pointing at a police officer and saying, hey, Bana, you're watching as we're being vermeered here, essentially, is what he said in that moment, where such a thing then became public. And he said, you have a duty of care here when this is happening. What did that mean? That the police officer and anybody else who was in that area could see what was going on, but they were just kind of like, riding along. How then do you justify that?
That's why it's important to be very objective on this discussion.
Exactly.
There's a very thin line. But the thin line is that the police have a mandate. They have a duty to maintain law and order. And if they fail to maintain law and order, then they have abdicated their duties and their roles. At no point does this duty or role shift to the public. It does not shift. The best they can do, which is actually provided for in the law, is to conduct arrest.
Yeah.
So in this context, that's why I want to blame both sides. Those who uttered political incitements. But then these political incitements, if you look at it strictly in the law, then both parties are guilty. Because you cannot tell me that, like I mentioned, you cannot tell me that Babu Owino's people in their self-defense meeting those who had been mobilized, I don't know by whom, if they fight, then that means that he is protecting. The question is, who is he protecting? Then number two is now the time. And I think that is a political bad manners as well that we noted. Personally, as a legal counsel, when is a political rally supposed to be conducted? For example, taking a political rally at Homa Bay at around 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. in the evening is a recipe of chaos. Of course, the police are mandated to maintain law and order. But then the persons who organize such gatherings must also bear certain responsibilities to ensure that they cooperate with the police to ensure that the law is actually maintained. And they also ensure that they do it within the confines of the law. So yes, one, I want to tell the politicians that they should also bear a duty of care to their supporters, so that they do not they do not unnecessarily expose them to acts of goonism. That is only isolated to the evening. But during the day, those who blocked the roads, if they were not arrested, why are they not arrested?
And I think, Wakili, that is exactly where I wanted us to go. Because here then we are saying that we have left Sindo. We are going to Homa Bay town, right? The roads are blocked. Or rather, when you're heading there, the individuals who are charging towards you, no police in sight. At that particular point, what do you do? What was the Linda Mwananchi team supposed to do when you see individuals charging towards you and they're not coming with flowers to hug you?
According to the law, that's clear as mud. What do you do?
At that point, when they're charging towards you with weapons, they are armed, and you are in your vehicles going towards your political rally. What do you do at that point in time? Do you just say,
the law is clear?
The law is clear,
We just don't say anything.
What
stand here,
does one do at that particular point? Because there is, what we say, logic, common sense, and there is equally adrenaline that kicks in because you let them get to you.
Fight or flight, man.
You go. So in legalese language, then, even in laws of natural justice, right? Let's apply that if that applies here. What do you do in such an instant?
It's a tough
I think
balance.
it's a good question. You know why? Because we're getting to a season where, unfortunately, we find another situation like this will play out.
It's a tough balance, I tell you. That is why the police are expected. Because, you know, if you were to defend yourself, then we will not have a country. We will not have a country. For example, if we are to let that the police officers are not there, Babu's goons, not goons, supporters. Sorry for that. Babu's supporters are from Sindo. Then Peter Wasaga's supporters are from Homa Bay, right? And they meet somewhere and they start a fight. You cannot claim that you are defending yourself, because what it actually will give rise to anarchy, and the losses that will be occasioned from that particular act will be irreparable. So that's why I take it back to the police and to strictly follow the law with regards to peaceful picketing, that's number one, or having a political rally. So the police failed. And then it means that we should pursue.
Okay,
the
let's be real now, Wakili. There is the law, there are those things that you're saying. Now, let's come down to earth, okay? In that situation, where now today we are looking at the aftermath of the horrific violence that took place, in that moment when you are seeing danger, it's not here in the studio, the thing in front of you is a microphone. In that situation where there is danger, there's somebody with death in front of you, are you supposed to be thinking, in this instant, I shouldn't react this way because, later they'll ask me if I went alongside the threshold and menene of the law and whether it was clear and constitutionalism. Brother, they're about to die.
The police
in that, and that's what I'm asking. In that moment, you're saying, you know what? I shouldn't react because the police are supposed to protect me, so I should be protected by the police. It didn't happen. So what are you supposed to do? And I'm asking this question. I'm not even just focusing on Homa Bay over the weekend. We're looking into the future. Things that, but unfortunately, we are facing a direct possibility of them happening again. Tell me, in that position where people are faced with danger, in that moment, there are police around, there are goons everywhere, cover of darkness is coming. Am I thinking, these cops are supposed to protect me, so let me sit here and wait death because the cops will protect me?
You simply avoid situations like that. And of course, that's why I said the timing, the 7 p.m., and of course, the dark itself was already a danger. But then, if
the
we
violence had started even during the day.
That's what I say. If we are to look at it from a point of let us meet in Luya, they say mundu kumundu. Then we will not have a country. That is what we are trying to avoid. We will not be having a country here. So it means that we will be mobilizing our supporters. We will be mobilizing our supporters in readiness of any political provocation. So it means, and that will give rise to goons. As Wasaga, when I'm going for a political rally, I will ensure that I have my people, so that if you attack me, and I'll be able to meet you, how many people will die?
Wakili.
So what needs to be done? And that is something that I believe there is intelligence.
Yes.
I believe the security apparatus